This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Magazine publisher and entrepreneur Judith Mancini is sharing captivating conversations with experts in their field about the latest trends in our ever-changing world to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Judith Mancini Today will spark your interest and inspire you to lead your best life ever. And now, here's Judith.
Judith Mancini Today is sponsored by Basic Brands, Inc., providing the highest quality specialty products in the natural food industry. Visit basicbrandsinc.com and enter JMT15 for your 15% discount on your first order, including their best-selling vitamin E ointment, which restores moisture and elasticity to your skin. Good day, everyone. It's Judith Mancini here. This is my podcast, Judith Mancini Today. So you can hold me responsible for anything that's said on here. I want to start the day with something different today. Today is National Prayer Day. So here's my prayer for you. May the peace of God that passeth all understanding be with you now and forevermore. Right, let's get on with it. So, in the news, I just have to say we are in a state of anarchy. We have crime going on that nobody seems to care about except the citizens that are not caring about their country and other people are killing people, setting buildings on fire, stealing everything out of buildings, and our government isn't doing anything about it. There are homeless people on the streets. They're not doing anything about it. They seem to be more concerned about helping illegal aliens, and I call them illegal aliens because they're from foreign countries and they do not have papers to come into the country. So I think something needs to be done before we absolutely lose our country, and we'll have a heck of a time gaining it back. You can go and vote, but if you don't vote for the right party, the right people that are concerned about your country and your rights, you better take another look at everything. You know, there's all this talk recently of all these things that are being done to help us. For one, Title 42 is due to expire on May 11th. That's a week from today, 7 days. And there are already over 40,000 people lined up from south of the border coming into our country, just waiting for that. Now, here's the problem. I like immigration. I've told you many times, I'm married to an immigrant. I have many immigrant friends. They all did it legally. And none of them are terrorists or convicted killers or anything else. Now, I'm not saying that all these immigrants that want to come to the United States because we're the greatest country on earth, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the bad guys that have infiltrated them, the ones with the cartels that are into human trafficking and drug trafficking. I'm talking about these people. All we're going to do is get a lot of crime. Now, what I want to tell you is that the administration is sending 15,000 troops down to help manage currently today, and that was this morning. They're keeping an update throughout the day. It was 40,000 already were lined up to come across. Now 1,500 troops are being sent to help process these people. They're only being sent to be here for 90 days. That's 3 months. These people are not going to stop coming across our border just because suddenly Title 42 ends and they think they can run in, because that's what they think. This was put into place for COVID, to make sure people didn't have COVID, but I don't know how they did that, because they ran out of masks and everything else. And then they kept them together in different places because the different cities couldn't take care of them. Well, we can't even take care of the homeless people. How can we take care of this many people who want to come to our country? Why wouldn't they? I just said, because it's the greatest country in the world. Now these people are being fed, they're given cell phones, they're transported to cities of their choice most of the time, but they don't have jobs. And if they get jobs, they may be taking away a job from somebody who is a legal immigrant or a legal United States citizen. I think it's our greatest problem right now. Well, that's to say, besides having four nations, at least four nations who would like to declare war with us. It's just a sad thing, and I think this adds to everybody's anxiety. President Biden's administration has put in some processing centers in Central and South America to try to deal with this problem, although the borders are, did you forget? Vice President Harris is the border czar. She doesn't do anything about it. Well, the administration is set up in Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haitians to look at all of these people. Excuse me, those aren't all the places. Mexico, will accept Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and Haitians to help us out with this problem right now. The Central America and South America processing centers are Colombia and Guatemala. Sorry about that. I don't know what the processing centers are doing. I don't know if they're just checking them for COVID, checking them for their papers, seeing if they are on any watch lists. I have no idea what they're doing, and you can't get much information on any of this. So I guess we'll just have to keep watching and see what happens. I am concerned about my friends who live down by the border in San Diego and Carlsbad, down in those places that are close to the border, because look what's happening we're in California, but look what's happening in Brownsville, Texas, and some of the other places. They're just being inundated with these people, and they can't take care of them. The buses still leave at midnight. They don't know where they're going. There's all sorts of problems that are wrong with this. And of course, the old rumor keeps going around that they will be given the chance to vote in our elections. A lot of these things are political. And one of the things that's political is they keep telling you, President Biden does, that our economy is just fine. Well, it's not just fine. He didn't create 12,000 new jobs, 12 million new jobs, or whatever he says. It's not true. These jobs were jobs that were lost during COVID. You can look up figures like this. I don't have to tell you, and you can look at both sides of it. Just Google it or DuckDuckGo, any of these places. Look them up and see what's going on. This is getting to be quite frightening. Now, it's my opinion that we're heading towards socialism and at the worst, communism. But I was listening to the news this morning with Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado, and he was talking about immigration and capitalism. And they do have people coming into Colorado, even though it's not a border state, and they have set up jobs and being vetted to see what they are able to do for us and what we are able to do for them. A lot of these are people who have come from Afghanistan, because we had to get some of the people who worked for us out of Afghanistan, although many are still stranded there. You might want to look it up. You can find it on the internet, I'm sure. Jared Polis, governor of Colorado, he has a lot to say about capitalism. And if you think you're a young person and you're a teachers union who would like to get more socialistic or communistic, think about how you get raises. Capitalism raises your rate of pay. You know what happens under communism? You might get just enough to buy a little food for the week. So look at all of that. Form your own opinion. I know what I say, but I would like to know what you say. So save our country. Speak out, stand up. Let's keep our country free. Okay, now, today I want to tell you about the anxiety people are feeling about how life has changed after the lockups for COVID. And even though we've been out of lockup for many, many months now, people are still stressing out over the lockdowns themselves and being isolated and lonely, having to wear masks. People had online get-togethers. They had to learn remote learning and business. And all of this has taken a toll mentally on people, particularly the children. The children had to deal with that remote living and remote learning. They were stuck in their rooms or their house with somebody who was a caretaker, or a mom who was trying to work remotely from home, or a dad who was trying to work remotely from home. And a lot of times nobody was watching what they were doing. So instead of really being at school on the internet, they were playing games. Now, we have had a sliding education system for many years now, and we're no longer number one in the nation. You've seen the terrible numbers. We're way down the list on everything, most importantly, math and science. So everybody has anxiety about this, and they thought, oh, great, now we're open. COVID is over. It's been declared over. Most of the country has been vaccinated or had boosters. A lot of people haven't, and so that causes anxiety with people deciding to go out and get in social groups. I'm one who has not had boosters, and I never will. That's a whole nother show. But people are still frightened. They got used to being at home alone. They became reclusive more than normal. They became very lonely because they couldn't even go to the grocery store and see their favorite checker. We relied on delivery services such as Instacart and DoorDash for our meals and our groceries. Amazon grew exponentially, and people relied on that. They couldn't wait for their monthly or every other month delivery of toilet paper, for goodness sakes. That was the highlight of their day. They overspent on Amazon and some of the delivery services. Oh, how easy not to have to think up what you're going to serve for dinner one more night for over 600 days. Yikes, I'm one of those. And I'm guilty of the delivery things. I'm not a great shopper for luxury items and things like that on the internet, so I don't get myself in trouble like that. That's not to say I don't know that I can get out and about anymore, but I never did that on the internet. I saved it for things that were necessary. Everything from a light bulb to our monthly fish delivery from wild Alaskan seafood. We tried to eat healthy during the lockdowns, but there were days when we would get in the car and we'd put our mask on as we pulled up to Taco Bell to get our Mexican food fix, because we didn't have anybody around us in a restaurant that was great who would deliver Mexican food to us. We're just in this little gulf here where we don't have those restaurants. Well, now we obviously have some that have reopened, so we're happy about that, and we can get out to them and be a little social with our waiter or our waitress. But it took a long time for us to go out to, because we are of a certain age where we are supposed to be more susceptible to this and that our immune systems aren't as strong. But I hate to tell you, I think our immune systems are a lot stronger than some of the young people, because we don't eat a lot of junk food. We try to get some exercise, and we try to be social. Now, of course, we did it like everybody else on the internet or the cell phone when people were gone. A lot of my exercise was when I was going on my cell phone and I knew I was going to talk to a girlfriend I hadn't seen for quite a while. So I would just walk around the living room, walk around the kitchen. That was my exercise, because we've had some strange weather even in California. So there were days when we couldn't even go outside to walk. And there were the people who were still frightened nearly to death with their anxiety about being outside and not having a mask on. And some of these people are still that way. But you need the fresh air. You need to take that mask off. You're safe now. And this is part of the anxiety that's causing people to be so depressed and not know what they're going to do. So some of the things that increased being done online were telemedicine. A lot of places you couldn't get an in-person appointment with your doctor, your physician, because they didn't know if you had COVID or if you had the flu or if you had a common cold or an allergy. So telemedicine grew exponentially during this time. And in some ways, it's very good. Now, let me tell you a little story about one of my younger friends who was in their 40s, mid 40s. She travels a lot for business. And so since everything opened, she was going east for a business meeting that they hadn't had for over 2.5 years. So she was excited about it, and she's high up in the company and she needed to make a presentation. But when she got off when she got off the airplane and went to check into her room at her hotel, she was changing her clothes for the meeting, and she noticed her right arm, not her left, that we think about heart attacks, her right arm became so swollen and hard from her shoulder up here, from her neck down to her shoulder, all the way to her elbow. It was so hard and swollen, she had a hard time getting dressed. Well, of course, that scared her to death. So she got on telemedicine and she asked a doctor what to do about it. And he said, you need to get to an emergency room immediately. And he was afraid that she might have a blood clot, but he didn't want to diagnose on the telemedicine. So she went scrambling to a city that she didn't know and wanted to get a good emergency room. So she called her boss, who happened to know the city, and he told her the name of the best hospital in this major city. So she got an Uber driver and she kept talking to her boss and then telemedicine and everything on the way to the emergency. Well, in the emergency room, they discovered that after doing all of these tests, the MRIs, the CTs, all of these things that they do to see how your veins are working, your arteries are working, they discovered she did have a blood clot. A blood clot doesn't necessarily mean something like this. A blood clot was this long in her arm, from over her shoulder all the way to her elbow. Thank goodness for telehealth, because this doctor sent her to the emergency room. She found the best one available, and they were able to put her on blood thinners right away. So right now, I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story, except to tell you that she did fly home, and she has flown down to Los Angeles for a reunion, and she is fine. But if she hadn't had telemedicine at that time, God forbid, she might have been a goner. So some good things did come out of all of this. And obviously, lots of people did enjoy learning different things on the internet as we went through being locked up. But what it has done to people, many people, it's given them more anxiety and more depression. They no longer want to go to social functions out. They think they've become unattractive, unsociable. They have no confidence. They don't even know what to talk about anymore, even though they may have read the best list of books while they were locked up. They don't know what to say to their girlfriend who is single and is now dating again. They don't know what to say to the mothers who have created their own online businesses because they haven't learned how to do this. They don't know how to talk to people anymore. They've dropped out of their charity programs that they were in, helping others. They just keep isolating. And this is causing more and more problems. Now, we can jump ahead to the shootings in this country that have gone on, the 5 people that were killed by being shot in the head, including an 8-year-old child. We can think about what happened in Atlanta yesterday, and thank God that they got the perpetrator. But he shot 5 people or 4 people. One died, and the others are in critical condition. Yes, they had really bad automatic weapons. Some of them had revolvers, handguns, not revolvers. Sorry, I think about cowboy days when they had revolvers. So they had handguns, and they killed these people. And I want to know, how much did this have to do with death by suicide by cops? How much did it have to do with blaming other people because they couldn't go and socialize and speak to people about their anxiety? They felt rejected and isolated. We don't know. But I will say that there are statistics that mental health has been on a decline with lots of problems for people since we were locked down. Children are having trouble going back to kindergarten, preschool, elementary school, middle school, and high school, to say nothing of the college kids. Suicides have gone up in the ages of high school and college. Fortunately, not everybody takes other people with them when they commit suicide. But can you imagine hurting so badly and feeling so rejected and isolated that you don't know what to do, and it leads you to this? Well, we need to do something about mental health in this country, and now more than ever. You know, sending the kids back to school, but still separating them with plastic shields and plastic masks and things like this is not a good deal or a good idea either. You want to be able to give somebody a hug. You want to touch. And believe me, if I couldn't hug my husband and have him touch me, I would probably be a basket case. Some of you know I lost my son at the end of COVID by suicide. And it's the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent. I will never get over it. Some people say, well, you can give yourself a year to grieve, but I will never stop grieving for my son. And there are too many people that during COVID lost their loved ones due to suicide, or due to kids ordering drugs on the internet that they felt were okay, and they died of overdoses of fentanyl or something like that. I can't even imagine these parents. And regardless of what other people say, you can't hover above your child like a helicopter continuously. You have to talk to them. You need to hug them. And think about how they feel about being isolated and locked up for these 2 years. They're going to go through the same things you're going through, but let them speak on the phone a little more to their friends. Give them the confidence to go out and join in with their high school friends again and participate in the school activities, participate in graduation. Graduation and prom are coming up. I feel so badly for some of these kids that missed their graduations during the lockups, but I do know some people, some parents who went against those lockup rules, and they had magnificent parties when it was prom time. They had them in their backyards. They had a lot of room. They had people separated so they wouldn't be right next to each other. Well, people dance crazy these days. It's not like back in the 60s when you were hugging each other right next to each other. So they were able to dance. They were able to dine together. They were able to sing funny songs together, tell funny stories to each other. And when graduation came, they were able to graduate and go outside for the ceremonies, even though the masks were still mandatory and separation was mandatory. So these kids survived being locked up a little better than the ones that were not allowed to go out and not socialize. There's a lot of studies going on right now about the isolation that lockdowns bring. And there's actually a book that is out now, which I'll talk about more next week, but it's on loneliness and what happens to people who are locked down and don't have any social life anymore. You've got to find a social life. Now, what I'm going to tell you now is anxiety causes negative thoughts and talk. You can't be talking on the phone to some person and say, hey, we could go out and meet for coffee, or we could sit 6 feet away from each other, but I want you to wear a mask because I really don't know what's going on in the country right now, and everybody has a different opinion, and I don't want to get sick, even if we're sitting outside. I don't know. We're all going to get it. This is going to just go on forever and ever. The vaccines aren't preventing the passing on of the COVID. People are still dying from COVID. People die every day, unfortunately. You can't live in fear all of your life. So I suggest you go out and you try being out one-on-one with somebody in the beginning. Now, if you have severe anxiety and are having thoughts in your head that it's not worth living anymore, I want you to get help. I want you to go to a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or your primary physician to have them find help for you. If you don't have the money or the insurance, there are many places that you do not have to pay to get help. If you're really having thoughts of suicide, call the suicide prevention line. Call your 911 operator, barring all else, and tell them what you're thinking. The person who did this horrible shooting and killing people in Atlanta, his family helped the police search for him and find him. So I wish that he had talked to his family more, and perhaps he did. This was not the right way to solve his problems. It's never the right way. So I think we need to do more in our country about mental health and what people are going through. with trying to get back in society. We've had to shift the way we've thought about a lot of different things. Employers had to think about it, how they could do remote work, how they could come back in, maybe reposition cubicles and desks. It's not easy for anybody. So it's even worse trying to speak globally to this and figure out what to do about it. I think a lot of us have depended on a supply chain that has delivered things to our doors. Now, here's a problem I see. In the inner cities, and I'm calling San Francisco an inner city and Chicago an inner city where crime is rampant on both of them, where they actually have closed down stores and are leaving. Bed Bath & Beyond is just going out of business. What? That was your go-to place to get kids things to go to college. And they had tremendous sales, but they have had to close too many stores and people don't want to go in. Excuse me. So you may have to rely a lot on delivery systems. And if you're a busy mom or a busy dad, it's a whole lot easier to have something delivered than to go out and do the shopping. I couldn't wait to get back into Trader Joe's because they don't have a delivery system. And I don't buy everything from Trader Joe's, but the $4 chuck is pretty good. If you guys know what a good cheap wine is, it's $4 chuck. Used to be $2 chuck. Well, that's what inflation does for you. So, I don't know. I am a social person. I like to get out, but I will tell you that I've had a problem going out and getting social again, mostly because I'm afraid of people asking me, how are you doing after losing your son? It has not so much to do with the COVID. It has to do with the combination of both. So I can certainly understand if you're going through this too. But we are social creatures by nature, and we have to get out. So I have forced myself to get out with some of my very dear friends who understand. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how I feel. Just tell me, I'm so happy to see you. What have you been doing? What book did you read? What show did you now put on Netflix or Roku or something? How do you spend your time? Did you learn a new skill? You've got to concentrate on these things and try to help yourself as we go through all of these tragedies. And I'll tell you something, I think it's going to get worse. I think on the border cities, they're going to have such a problem after this ends on the 14th or the 11th. I think people are not going to want to go out of their houses again during the heat of summer. There are already rumors spreading, and this will give you anxiety for sure. They're already predicting more riots in the cities where there's so many homeless. They're predicting riots at the political conventions. Hey, I was in Chicago when the Chicago 7 were around and they had the Democratic convention there. Yeah, I was there. I was a stewardess for United Airlines. And yep, we were right there in the middle of the convention. Nothing happened to us. It happened down at the convention center. So I would tell you, if you're not involved in the convention, stay away from them. Yes, you have a voice, and yes, you should stand up. But at the first viewing of any kind of trouble, leave. You don't want to be involved in anarchy, where the police can't protect you, where people are going to bang you over the head with a sign, or where somebody is going to set off, God forbid, a bomb. I don't know how they're going to control these two conventions, but I would be leery about going unless you are one of the people that needs to be there. And there's a lot of those, a lot of the delegates. I don't mean to be a bearer of bad news, but I think we're living in a time where we need to be far more careful than we ever have before. Look, you can't walk down a street in San Francisco and be the former fire chief and not get bashed over the head with a metal pole. You can't be a 75-year-old woman and walk down the street and have your handbag stolen and then you punched in the face till you fall down and then kicked in the stomach. You can't be driving your car down when it's a luxury car or an SUV and think that you will not get carjacked. You can't think this anymore. You need to be aware. And of course, this gives you more anxiety and you don't even want to go out. Well, there is a remedy for this. And I think a lot of people should listen to this. You want to go where people are on the street and walking around, good people. You don't want to be isolating yourself on a street, taking a walk late at night where people can attack you running out of an alleyway. You don't want to be a single woman in a luxury car or an SUV driving late at night, trying to go home and have someone follow you, or someone that will come and pound on your car and haul you out. Keep your doors locked. Be safe. Go shopping during the daylight hours. Don't go to malls late at night. I can't think of anything that would be an emergency to go to a mall late at night and walk through a parking lot that's dark. I never in my life thought I'd be talking about this. I never in my life thought I'd be talking about the anxiety people are experiencing from the lockdowns. So instead of spending money on Netflix, the theaters are open again, and there's some very funny movies come out. There's a couple of movies that speak to a lot of my audience that are older, wonderful women and go through all these things. One of them is dating. All of these women want to hook up with another man in their life because they don't like living alone. You know, you don't need to get married these days to have a roommate. You could live with a man. You don't need to get through all of the legal papers. Nobody criticizes you about it. I have several friends who do that. If you want to get married, and married is a sacred vow, go ahead. Maybe you just want to have a male roommate. Maybe you want to have a female roommate. You don't want to be ever alone again during something like this. It's difficult. You don't want to give up your home, but the other person doesn't want to give up their home either, so you're stuck. But let's hope that we do not have lockdowns again. But I'm telling you, if we have riots during the summer, during the hot summer, that's when people love to get out and cause problems. We will have martial law in this country, and that is the epitome of anarchy. But whose side would the martial law be on? Only the president can declare martial law, I do believe. The governors of states can call in the National Guard. They're the ones who do that for their own state. Horrors. So I urge you to get out. I've gotten out more. If you look at my website, my posting on Facebook, you'll see that I've been going out more lately. And it amazed me that more people were carpooling to some of the things I did. Now, I live far away from where these charity philanthropic things occur. So I have to drive a bit, so I normally don't have people with me. But the ones that live around that area, why don't you carpool? My goodness, you didn't see each other for months, years at a time. Get out. Do something. But first of all, what I want to talk about before I end today is how you can help yourself with this anxiety and depression besides seeing your healthcare providers. I want you to really consider doing some of these things that you don't normally do, and you think some of the people are kind of gaga goofy. This is not goofiness. This is going to help you. And you want to do this to help yourself. So listen up while I give you 7 things to help your anxiety re-entering the world of being together again. Number 1 is get back to a healthy diet. I know I ate the pints of Talenti ice cream gelato over and over, and I gained 15 pounds. COVID 15. It's like university freshman 15. Number 2, cut back on caffeine. Have your one frappuccino, your one latte, your one coffee. That's it, because caffeine makes you jittery. For no reason, drink those energy drinks that are full of caffeine. That'll really tip you over the side. Number 3, I want you to get enough sleep. There's lots of natural products out there that you can't become addicted to, or you don't want to become addicted to. You won't unless you think you want to. Try those instead of prescription drugs. You'll feel better in the morning. You won't have a hangover from Ambien or something like that. Number 4, I want you to keep active. I keep telling you, go out and take a walk, even if you can't walk around your house like I told you I did when we were locked down and it was raining. Get outside, get the sunshine, and for goodness sakes, don't wear a mask. Get the fresh air. That's what you need. Number 5, for you smokers that smoke cigarettes still or you vape, stop. Try to stop. I know it's a horrible, horrible addiction, but try to help yourself and stop, because that actually increases your anxiety. Number 6, try prayer like the National Prayer Day, and I said a prayer for all of you. Try prayer and try meditation, and do it regularly. Try it. Don't just try it one day and give it up. Try it regularly for at least 10 days and see how it helps you. And number 7, start going back out with your friends, and start with just one. If you're too nervous and have anxiety, don't start with a whole group of people that are going out to celebrate a birthday. Don't go out to a big charity event or a football game and wonder how you're going to get out of the stadium. Just go out with one friend, take a walk together, or have a cup of coffee, something like that. And that will help your anxiety, and you'll get back into society faster than you think you will. Now, don't think I'm talking about society with the elites. I'm talking about society, everyday society, where you can walk down the streets. In California, we're not like that, like they are in New York and Boston, where you can see thousands of people on the streets. And sometimes they even smile and say hello. And try that wherever you live when you're taking your walk. Just say hello. You might find somebody who's just as lonely and anxious as you are. All right, that's it for today, everybody. I thank you for joining me. And as always, cherish yesterday, dream tomorrow, and live today. Thank you.